they smashed my grandfather's handmade birdbath just for laughs. Caught on my security cam, the Karen sisters from down the street thought filming themselves destroying it would make them famous on TikTok. When I confronted their mom, the HOA president, she shrugged it off and threatened to fine me for unauthorized yard decor. So, I replaced the birdbath with one that fights back. I installed a motion-triggered dye system, loaded it with electric blue, and waited. Just 3 nights later, they came back for round 2 laughing, recording, ready to break it again. But the second they got close FSSHHH, they were blasted with blue dye, head to toe, screaming and stumbling down the street like panicked Smurfs. The footage, viral in hours, their prank, backfired. Their mom, speechless at the HOA meeting. They haven't come near my yard since my birdbath. Still standing. It was a peaceful Sunday morning, the kind where the air still held a touch of dew, and the birds sang gentle choruses from the hedges. The type of quiet only someone who truly loved their home would notice. I stepped out into my front yard with a cup of steaming coffee, expecting nothing more than to water the tulips and watch the birds gather around the ceramic birdbath that had been there for years, my grandfather's handmade creation. Painted by my daughter when she was just 7, it had become a symbol in our yard, a small monument of memories layered with nostalgia. But today, something was off. As I approached, I saw the shattered mestizens of ceramic shards strewn across the grass like a forgotten mosaic. The birdbath was broken, destroyed, obliterated. My heart sank, and for a moment, I stood in shock, coffee cooling in my hands, trying to process what I was seeing. My first instinct wasn't to assume malice. Maybe a raccoon knocked it over, maybe the wind, but something about the way the pieces were spread, and the clean break in the base, felt too deliberate. I walked back to the porch, pulled out my phone, and opened the live feed from my security camera, the one perched neatly above the garage, capturing the entire front yard. I fast-forwarded through the quiet night, and there it was, at exactly 1:14 a.m. 2 familiar shapes snuck onto my lawn. Haley and Brianna, the Karen sisters known around the neighborhood for their obnoxious social media pranks, entitled attitudes, and being raised by the queen of HOA complaints herself, Cheryl. They weren't just wandering. No, they were filming. Haley held her phone up with one hand while Brianna strutted forward, kicked the birdbath once, twice, and then knocked it over entirely. The crash echoed faintly through the audio. Then, they laughed like it was some kind of joke. "Oops, gravity wins again," Brianna said into the camera, while Haley shouted, "That old thing needed a makeover anyway." I watched, numb with disbelief, as they pranced off my lawn, proud of themselves and unaware they were on candid camera. The sheer audacity of it all set a fire in my chest. I didn't go back to finish my coffee. I didn't water the flowers. I went straight inside, downloaded the footage, and marched right down the street to their house, where Cheryl, their mother, and our neighborhood's self-proclaimed enforcer of standards was out front trimming hedges with surgical precision. I walked up.com, but burning inside. "Good morning, Cheryl," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your daughters broke my birdbath last night. I have the security footage if you'd like to see it." She didn't even look up from her Clippers birdbath. She asked dismissively, "Are you talking about that old ceramic thing in your yard? Maybe it broke on its own. You know, wear and tear." I blinked, stunned. "No, Cheryl. They filmed themselves smashing it for a TikTok video. I watched it happen." She paused, then looked at me with that perfect Karen eyebrow raise. "Teenagers will be teenagers," she said flatly. "Besides, wasn't that thing technically unapproved yard art? HOA guidelines discourage unsanctioned structures, and I don't remember you submitting a form for it." My jaw dropped. Not only was she brushing off the destruction of personal property, but she was now threatening to report me for the very thing that had been destroyed. "It's a birdbath, not a statue of Poseidon," I snapped, "and it's been there for 7 years without a single complaint." She smirked. "Well, perhaps it's time someone cleaned up the clutter. Maybe you should take this as a sign." That was it. No apology, no concern, no offer to make amends. Just passive aggression and thinly veiled threats. As I turned and walked away, I heard her mutter, "Some people are just too sensitive." Back home, I sat at my desk fuming. The video of the girls vandalizing my property played over and over in my mind. I considered calling the police, but I knew how it would go. Just a kids being kids response, maybe a half-hearted warning. And Cheryl had friends in the HOA board. If I pushed this through official channels, I'd be buried in paperwork and counterclaims. That's when an idea sparked in my mind, one that grew hotter with every second I stared at the broken birdbath. If they thought it was funny to destroy something meaningful to me, maybe it was time they learned what it felt like to be on the receiving end of a prank. But not just any prank. One that would teach a lesson and leave an imprint. I spent the rest of the day researching motion-triggered devices. After a few hours of hunting, I found it. A security-grade motion-activated die pack system, originally designed to protect expensive displays in retail stores. The system sprayed non-toxic, bright-colored dye when motion was detected within a close range. It was waterproof, washable but not easily, and certainly not overnight. Perfect. I ordered it with express shipping. Then I scoured online shops for a bird bath that looked similar to the one I had lost. Something that wouldn't arouse suspicion but would hold the hidden reservoir and nozzle assembly. Asterisk 2 days later. My revenge kit arrived. I spent the evening assembling the device with care, hiding the dye canister inside the bird bath's pedestal and setting the motion sensor to trigger at a precise distance. The nozzle was tiny, practically invisible. I filled the canister with electric blue dye color that would show up loud and proud on skin and clothes, and then I waited. The new bird bath looked innocent, even prettier than the last. I posted a photo on our neighborhood Facebook page with a polite caption. Thank you to those who offered kind words after the unfortunate vandalism. We've replaced our bird bath and hope this one brings as much joy to the birds. The Karens didn't comment, but I saw Cheryl had viewed the post. Asterisk 3 nights passed without incident. Then, late Thursday night, my phone buzzed with an alert. Motion detected front yard camera. I opened the live feed. There they were, Haley and Brianna, back in their black hoodies, whispering and giggling. They must have thought I replaced the bird bath out of weakness, like I was some pushover homeowner too scared to fight back. I watched as Brianna crept forward, camera in hand. Round 2, she whispered to Haley, let's kick this one too. She raised her leg and stepped into the sensor zone. With a sharp hiss, the dye spray activated. FSS SSHHH. A loud blast of blue mist erupted from the base of the bird bath, coating both girls in a shocking wave of bright blue ink. They screamed, loud, panicked, almost cartoonish screams as they scrambled backward, tripping over each other and flailing like they'd just been slimed on national television. Haley dropped her phone, still recording, and tried to wipe her face, only to smear the dye further. I couldn't help but laugh just a little. Justice had never looked so vivid. The camera caught every second, and I saved it all before heading back to bed. I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot, but I slept well that night. The image of those two streaking down the sidewalk like wild blue raccoons burned into my mind. The trap had worked, and the best part, Cheryl didn't know it yet, but she would. The next morning, the neighborhood group chat was already buzzing with rumors. Someone had spotted the Karen sisters sprinting down Maple Drive at midnight, drenched in what looked like neon blue paint. One neighbor even posted a blurry ring cam screenshot with the caption, "Smurfs gone wild." I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat on my porch, watching the birds flutter around the new bird bath, completely oblivious to the chaos it had caused the night before. I had half expected the sisters to show up screaming bloody murder at my door, but there was nothing but silence from their side of the street. That was until 10:17 a.m., when a sharp knock echoed through my house. I opened the door to find Cheryl, standing there, her jaw tight, her face set like concrete, and Haley and Brianna behind her, arms crossed, still faintly stained with blue despite obvious attempts at scrubbing. Their blonde hair had streaks of turquoise, and faint dye splotches still clung to their necks and ears. Haley looked like she wanted to disappear into the sidewalk, while Brianna just glared with wet fury in her eyes. Cheryl, on the other hand, was in full Karen battle mode. She pointed a long acrylic fingernail at my chest and barked. "What exactly do you think you're doing, installing traps in your yard?" I leaned casually against the doorframe. "Good morning to you too. I assume you're here about the dye." Her eyes narrowed. "You assaulted my daughters." She spat. "This is a criminal act. I'm going to report you, and I've already contacted the HOA. This is harassment, psychological warfare. This isn't how neighbors behave." I gave a calm smile. "You mean the same daughters who trespassed onto my property and destroyed a handcrafted bird bath? The one I have them on video smashing for laughs. The one they bragged about in a TikTok that now mysteriously vanished. Because from what I remember, that's not how neighbors behave." Cheryl's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, flailing for a counter. "They're minors," she finally said. "You don't go spraying chemicals on children. It's non-toxic, water-based, and designed for anti-theft protection," I replied coolly. "Perfectly legal, and clearly very effective deterrence." Also, I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. I have full footage of the incident, both of them trespassing again. I've already made backups, and one copy is set to my cloud account, just in case anything happens to my property again. Cheryl's face twitched. I could see the gears turning behind her angry expression. Her daughters looked increasingly uncomfortable, like they wanted the ground to open up and swallow them whole. "Take it down," Cheryl snapped suddenly. "The bird bath, the camera, the dye contraption. Take it all down, or I'll have the HOA fine you every week until you do." I tilted my head. "You're welcome to try, but you'll find that bird baths, even ones with integrated security measures, are fully within property rights in this neighborhood. The camera's been up for 2 years, well documented. The dye system only activates on trespassing, which your daughters were definitely doing." Do you really want to drag this in front of the HOA and force them to admit your girls are vandalizing private property? Because I will make it public. In fact, I raised my phone and hit play. The video of Haley and Brianna getting blasted with dye filled the porch with loud shrieks and frantic footsteps. Cheryl's face paled. "Turn that off," she hissed. "You have no right to record my children on my property," I asked. "Actually, I do, and I plan to send this to the local neighborhood committee as a case study in home security innovation." Cheryl was shaking now, not from fear, but from rage. But she saw the writing on the wall. There was no winning this one. With a final scowl and a furious "this isn't over," she turned and marched back to her house, the girls scurrying after her like two dripping paintbrushes. But it was over. For her, anyway. For me, it was just beginning. The video hadn't just gone viral in our local neighborhood group, it had blown up on Reddit. Under the title, "Homeowner Gets Dice-Splattered Revenge on TikTok Vandals." Someone had reposted it with background music and slow motion, and within hours, it hit nearly 1 million views. People in the comments were divided between laughing their heads off and praising the creativity. Some were calling it the blue Birdbath incident. A few even wanted to know where to buy the system I used. One comment stood out. "These kids are lucky he didn't add glitter to that spray. That stuff never comes off." I grinned, sipping my coffee again, as I thought next time, maybe, but I had made my point. The birdbath was untouched from that day forward. In fact, the Karen sisters never stepped foot on my lawn again. Their nightly wanderings came to a dead halt. I even noticed Brianna walking to school on the opposite side of the street. Cheryl made a half-hearted attempt to bring the issue up during the next HOA meeting, claiming I had installed booby traps on my property. But once I stood up and showed the footage, along with a printed copy of the HOA's own guidelines about personal security installations, no one said a word. Cheryl was silenced by the very rules she loved to wield like a sword. But here's where it got even better. 3 other homeowners came up to me after that meeting asking for help installing similar systems. Apparently, the Karen sisters weren't just repeat offenders at my place, they'd been pranking other neighbors too. Someone's garden gnome had ended up in a pool. Another neighbor's Halloween decorations were mysteriously smashed 2 years in a row. People were fed up, so I helped. A week later, at least 4 houses had their own dye-deterrent bird baths. Different colors, too. One even had purple ink. It was becoming a thing, our own form of homeowner justice. Cheryl couldn't fight it. Without taking on the entire block, her reputation took a hit, too. Not that she cared, but she stopped going to every HOA meeting and started keeping to herself. The Karen sisters deleted most of their online prank videos. The only one that remained circulating like a ghost was the one I posted. That one, they could never quite erase. Sometimes I wonder if they learned anything. Maybe they just got quieter about their antics. But one thing was clear, they weren't laughing anymore. Every time I caught a glimpse of them, they'd turn their faces away, still bearing faint memories of the night they thought they'd pull another prank only to leave my yard dyed, exposed, and humiliated. But for me, the best part wasn't the viral fame, or the poetic justice, or even the neighborhood alliance that followed. It was the simple joy of standing on my porch, coffee in hand, while the birds gathered around my new bird bath, fluttering and chirping without a care in the world. Peace, reclaimed property, respected. And as for the Karen sisters, let's just say, they finally learned the golden rule of suburbia. Don't mess with the quiet guy who owns tech, patience, and a really good sense of humor.